Wow, wow, wow. We had an explosive episode with the final dinner party with the remaining six couples. And we also have one couple announcing their split before the final vows. Hey, you guys, welcome back to Romance Review TV with Lady T. Got another recap for you guys. Married at First Sight UK Season 7, Episode 26. So let's talk about it. Okay, so the couples arrive, and you can tell by the body language, especially here first with April and George, as they was the first couple in. They are doing great at this point. Shanita and Jordan, that dress is absolutely gorgeous on her, and I love the ponytail. I usually like those high ponytails myself, but they look like a united front. Another united front was Whitney and Matt. These two are just in sync at this point. We had Jenna and Zoe come in. They came in holding hands. Look like they are all good at this point as well. However, we do have Adrian and Thomas. Now, they came in, pretty much together, but we got to stay tuned because a lot unfolded. And then Jonathan and Sophie came in, and they seem all smiles, but they've had their ups and downs. Another thing that was pretty interesting is the separation of the group. I mean, we had one set of folks on one side, the other set of folks on the other side, and there was this whole divide amongst the group because there is some cliques going on and a little bit of animosity. I will say most of it is, I gotta say it was fueled kind of by Thomas, but we'll talk about that more in depth later and how it all pretty much panned out in the end. But this dinner party was absolutely out of control. They had the honesty box as well. There was arguments started. And I mean, there was a lot of eye rolling and passive aggressiveness, I gotta say, with Thomas. I mean, the cameras, were in his face multiple times when it came to his reactions. But pretty much the honesty box really did not cause too big of an explosion. It did cause some honest conversation between the couples about where they stand at this point. Like with Shanita and Jordan, they're fine. Zoe and Jenna, even though, and I do agree with the experts, is that even though they have lifestyle differences, they have a lot of core similar values. We also saw a lot of affection amongst these final couples. We saw a lot of kissing and touching and, things like that that shows that they were really into each other. Now, I will say Thomas was watching all of the interactions from the couples, and a lot of these couples he called fake were actually, their connections were pretty solid. And it was making him feel some kind of way because of the fact that he doesn't have that same energy in his relationship with Adrian. So this prompted a conversation that needed to be had, which at this point, there's no sense of continuing something on when you know within your hearts of hearts that you're not in it. And one of the biggest issues with these two is the intimacy piece, which, of course, Thomas wants, Adrian's not ready for. And so Adrian, as much as he wants Thomas to stick around, Thomas is not. Thomas is like, you know what? I love you, but that doesn't mean you're my person. And, at this point, I want you to live your best life. And I just think that we need to go our separate ways. And see, that's why when these people say leave on the couch, a larger percentage of these folks usually don't come back from that. There are some I've seen from previous seasons and other, like the UK version, the AU version, that you might see a comeback, but the majority of them don't. When somebody leaves, it automatically causes a rift in that relationship because that other person who said stay knows that other person really truly don't want to be there, or that there is really something substantial, that is going to cause that big hole in the relationship. Now, one thing about Adrian, he took it hard because he felt that he put a lot in this relationship with Thomas. And Thomas is, he's a very strong personality. So, it's a lot And then they did come back into the dinner party, made the announcement to the rest of the remaining couples that they're going to not proceed to the final vows as a couple together. And, they talked about how much they appreciated their relationship. And it was interesting to see April and George, because they was the recipient of Thomas calling their relationship fake when, I can see why she looked like that. But, my thing is, shade is, I don't think it was all that necessary. But, hey, it's drama, right? But everybody hugged it out with them except Sophie and Jonathan. And then, of course, Whitney and Matt. And then April and George. They were like... And we even saw in a confessional where Matt and Whitney was like, they should have been gone from commitment ceremony number 2, according to Matt. Now, Matt came later, and then there was these questions that, about what he regret. He said he don't regret anything. Zoe jumped in, and then we got all of the stares and the looks. And Zoe was like, you don't regret hurting Gemma? And he was like, well, I've already addressed that. So... It's a crazy situation. It's kind of like applying traditional way of dating and marriage to a lab rat experiment. And I know a lot of people in the AU version call it a lab rat experiment. But it really pushed this whole thing when we saw Adrian go off on Whitney. I didn't know from the previews who he was talking to. Now it was revealed that Adrian went off on Whitney. And I mean, my thing is, Whitney, when it came to Duca, it was really, really, from what we saw, disrespectful in her attitude. If you don't like the guy is one thing, but how she went about it. And she tried to leave. Duca wanted to stay. Excuse me. But, I mean, that's why this whole leave and stay thing, they need to reevaluate that. That's just in my opinion. Because you're forcing somebody to stay with you that you technically don't want. They don't want to be there. However, the conversation switched to Sophie and Jonathan. Sophie was like, maybe you weren't the person who I would have wanted, but maybe you more of the person that I needed. And I honestly think they can work through these things. Communication is their biggest problem. She don't like Jonathan responses to things, even though he's being direct and honest. And honestly, myself, as a person that work out, I don't want my legs ultra muscular either. That's just me. But people take it different ways. So it is what it is. When it comes to April and George, trust and commitment is their biggest issue. And so even though he said he trusts April, he don't trust himself in regards to, whatever decisions that he make regarding the trust. And that was one thing that, the experts had to say about them. But all in all, this whole big argument with the, Adrian and Thomas lashing out, it was just a mess. I mean, Thomas has been pretty much the drama of the season, I guess, if that made for good television for some people. But the primary goal is relationships and whether you can put arranged marriages together and see how they turn out and if they can actually go for the long haul based on the science. So we're coming up on the final vows. We got to stay tuned. We're coming up to the end of the season. Love Island Australia is coming up next, so stay tuned for that. We got a lot of other things. Love is Blind season 4 is coming up. Or is it season 3? So it's coming up too. So stay tuned for all of that on this channel as well. Okay, so let's get the conversation started. Let me know your thoughts about this final dinner party and the relationship of Thomas and Adrian being over. Do you think that they adequately put in enough time to make the relationship work, or should they have been over a long time ago? So until the next video, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you soon. Bye.